Once again, we're discussing the Mathis case, Nikki Mathis, who was detained at the Calgary airport and then taken to an undisclosed location where she was mandated to quarantine until she received what she thought was her second negative COVID test, because her first one apparently was rejected. Lisa Bildy, thanks again for joining me on this. You've been retained as the legal counsel. Is that correct for the Mathises?
The Justice Center has, yes. One of my colleagues is working on pleadings right now for an application against the federal government.
So I don't even know if I'm able to ask this question or what you're able to disclose, but I'll let you decide. What kind of action are you seeking?
Well, she's still working on the pleadings, but I think it's a judicial review of this ministerial order. We're concerned. For one thing, there's a disparity of treatment here towards travelers who get who have even a negative test. I mean, if you have a positive test in another capacity, such as perhaps you're getting tested because you're an essential caregiver in long-term care and you're having your weekly test, if you are found to be positive, you're not sent to a hotel. You are told to go home, and you can quarantine there. For some reason, travelers are being treated differentially. There's an arbitrariness to how they're being treated. Even if they come with a negative test. I mean, they're getting a negative test to board the airplane. They have to still do that. And then they come to the airport in Canada, and they have to now have another test.
Right.
And wait in a hotel for 3 days, and they can't quarantine at home. They may live in the same city, but they're being barred from living out their quarantine days at their own homes, like anybody else who tests positive is in this country, unless that's going to be changing too. But so far, there's a distinction there.
And I think that's a very important point you raised, that there seems to be a disparity between, I guess, the type of action you're engaging in. If you're a traveler, then you have this set of rules. If you're, say, a healthcare worker or you're a student in school, you have this set of rules in terms of if you test positive or, in this case, negative. KR, Canadians traveling across the border, say they're essential workers, or Canadians repatriating from the United States vehicularly, so with their cars, will these same things be imposed upon them with these same criteria that they must report if they don't have do they have to prove a negative COVID test before coming across the border by car?
Yeah, so it's rumored that this is going to be extending to land crossings as well. And so, but what we see with this is we see that there are a lot of exemptions. And so I believe that we saw some 6 million exempt people cross the border. So I think that there's a question when you're taking a look at the utility of it and to balance that with the infringement of the rights. And, is this a major concern? And then is this going to be something that's stopping new variants? I think that there's a real question there.
And for me, again, another thing that jumped out is who's responsible for validating this COVID test? Obviously, had this traveler, Nikki Mathis, at the Texas airport been told, you know what, no, this is the wrong COVID test that you have. You need to get a different one prior to boarding. You can't board. Please go back and get, in this case, the molecular to COVID test. Then she would have done that. But she followed what she thought was exactly correct. She was permitted on the flight. And I guess what seems very strange to me is why should airline staff be the ones who are basically screening passengers prior to boarding a flight? Is that really their job? Lisa, do you have a comment on that?
Well, it's been made their job as a result of the aviation ministerial order that was there was a new one today I just saw. So they're given all sorts of instructions in terms of masking and requiring certain tests. They made it very clear it's molecular tests that are required. And I think this is relating to Canadian Airlines, but I'm not sure if it applies. It must have to apply to other airlines as well if they want to fly into Canada. And they have all sorts of requirements now. They have to advise passengers that what's going to happen on the other end when they arrive. So they have to facilitate their quarantine plan being submitted. So there's quite a list of things. Whether it's if they want to be able to fly into Canada, this is
right.
What they have to do.